Hello, I'm Chris Howell. Over the next few moments, we're going to share some information with you regarding a very important topic. We will share with you the story of Edith Lewis, and Edith will talk with us about how she became HIV positive. Edith's story is one that can become quite controversial because of the position the person held in which she contracted the virus from. But I don't want us to get lost in his position, but more so, center on the fact that Edith let her guard down because of someone she felt that she could trust. Edith tells us that he was knowingly HIV positive for 14 years before they met, but he never disclosed that to her until it was too late. I personally know the effects that HIV and AIDS can have on a family. I lost my older brother due to complications of HIV and AIDS in 2006. He was 33 years old. This epidemic continues to drastically affect families across our nation. So it is our hope that you will walk away from this video with a renewed, heightened sense of awareness regarding HIV and AIDS. Well, Edith, we're talking with you, and you have a pretty remarkable story. And I guess as we get into your story, let's kind of set this up a little bit by talking about how did you and your husband meet?
Oh, I went to this church one night visiting, and he was on the drums, playing the drums, and after church we started talking, exchanged numbers, and became friends.
In our pre-interview, you talked about the fact that your husband knew 14 years prior to you all meeting that he was HIV positive.
Yes, when we met, he had been positive, knowingly positive for 14 years. He never said anything, but he knew it.
There was never any sign, was he ever taking any medication or anything,
No.
anything that would have given you a sign that he was sick?
Never took medicine. He never went to the doctor. He never got in care until after it came out, after I found out.
Now that you have become an advocate and really making folks aware of HIV and AIDS, looking back on it, there's still no signs or anything that would have indicated that he would have been positive?
Well, during that time, I had no knowledge of HIV.
Right, but no, with your newfound knowledge.
So today, with what I know today, I realized that what I was looking at, he was experiencing wasting syndrome, and I just thought he was sick.
What is wasting syndrome?
Feeling bad. Loss of muscle mass. Every time he ate something, it went straight through him. He was losing weight, severe stomach cramps. He had a rash on the inside of his thigh that kind of looked like beat up hamburger meat. Is my best way of describing it.
And was it there when you guys initially met?
No.
Okay.
All this took place after we said I do. It seemed like after we said I do, he became extremely ill, and he started losing weight, and the stomach cramps started, but I didn't know.
So let's back up a minute. How did you become aware of the fact that you were positive?
Because I found out about him first. And so I knew we had been together for a year, unprotected. So in my mind, I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I am too.
So today, are you HIV positive, or do you in fact have AIDS?
I've never had an AIDS diagnosis.
Okay.
In 17 years. It's always been HIV.
Okay.
My numbers have never been that low.
Yeah, because you do the proper things to take care of yourself.
I'm faithful.
Yeah.
To my appointments, my doctor appointments, I'm faithful with my medication. I can't say I'm faithful on the exercise part, but I do what I can.
Yes.
So, but I do go to the doctor all the time.
Yes.
Every time I'm supposed to be there, I'm there.
You met your husband in church. We're sitting today talking to you in another church home.
Yes.
So obviously you have maintained your faith throughout this process. Many folks would probably become mad at the church, mad with God. You know, I met a man in church, I thought there was no way this could happen to me. What has allowed you to not become angry, bitter, or what have you?
Well, to be honest with you, I was angry with God because in my mind, God is all-knowing. He knows everything. And so I wanted to know, why didn't you tell me? why didn't you share with me that he was positive? But when I sat down and I thought about it, would I have listened? Because this man proposed to me. He's going to marry me. And I was excited about that. I probably wouldn't have heard anyway. He may have. I didn't hear him.
So had this man disclosed to you that he was HIV positive, are you saying that you probably likely would have still married him and maybe just practiced safe sex throughout the marriage?
That is not what I'm saying.
Okay. You're
No.
saying if God had disclosed
The Lord.
to you, okay.
We're talking about the Lord.
Yes.
No, had he disclosed to me that he was positive, I wouldn't have married him because I wasn't educated enough.
Yeah.
What I would have done was been his friend. I know I would have been his friend,
Okay.
but I wouldn't have married him.
Had you ever been married before?
No.
Okay. So your first marriage, meet a man in church. You think because you met in church, it's probably pretty safe to let your guard down a little bit.
Oh, I threw caution all the way to the wind. What?
Yeah.
In the cell. I let it go.
Yeah.
I'm marrying a preacher.
Yeah.
In church. I'm in church. I didn't need to know. Well, during that time, I was living off the myth of what was said about HIV. You either had to be a prostitute, a drug addict, or gay. I was none of the above. So I was none of the above, so I didn't inquire.
Yes.
And I went with the flow.
Did you ever, once you all were diagnosed, did he ever disclose to you how he contracted the disease?
He did.
And if so, was he one of the above?
He was.
Going back to your faith, you're very active in your church. How did your faith help you walk throughout this process? You talked about being angry with God, but obviously you overcame that anger and now continue to serve the Lord.
I did. Actually, it was my pastor, my church family, my biological family, my friends. They surrounded me and they encouraged me. They didn't allow me to, had I isolated myself, it would have been easy for me to just disappear.
Yeah.
But they didn't allow it.
Yeah.
Even when I tried to hide from them, I tried to not be around. I remember one time I was going through something emotionally during that time, and I wouldn't answer my pastor's phone calls on my on my phone.
Yeah.
So he called my job, and I had to answer the phone at work.
Yeah. He's going to find you one way or the other.
Right, and he was like, "How's my Edie doing?" I'm like, "Ugh." You found me.
So I was doing well until I got this call.
I was like, I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
okay. So he did. He knew that I needed that.
Yeah.
That even though I was trying to close myself off from the world, he didn't allow it, nor did my siblings. They would come out here one at a time and be with me, and it helped.
Yeah.
It helped. People don't understand that when you're going through something traumatic, cancer, HIV, diabetes, heart disease, whatever it is, lupus, you need that support from people who have always been in your life, because you have a tendency to go away from the person that you used to be.
Edith has moved beyond being a victim to becoming an advocate. To bring awareness and education, she speaks in the community, makes media appearances, and continues to be a refuge for others who've been diagnosed with this disease. Edith recently was a guest on Dallas-based K104's Morning Show, one of the top radio programs in the country.
Edith Lewis is in with us, and she was diagnosed as HIV positive, you said, in 1998, and you have been living with HIV since then. So how long were you guys dating before you got married?
Almost a year.
Okay. How old were you at the time?
34.
You were 34 years old.
When I got the diagnosis.
But when you married, 33, you guys get together. And then what about him? After you got diagnosed, did you say anything to him, and what did he say?
I'm sorry.
That was all he said?
No, he did not.
Okay. He did. Now, he did. Okay, so you said he went into the hospital.
No.
He got sick. He just got sick.
He got sick, and I took him to the hospital.
Okay, and then what happened? The
Well,
doctor.
I took him to the ER, and they gave him medicine. He had never been on medication the whole 14 years.
That's the thing we got to talk about with World AIDS Day today. We got to talk about that now, the changes that have been made from back then when folks were diagnosed with HIV. We just saw where Charlie Sheen came out a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And so what we can do today is just raise that there's a stigma associated, and we need to take that out. And let's talk about it and talk about what you want today to mean. What do you want it to mean?
Well, I would like for it to mean more awareness, especially to people who are not as educated about HIV as you would think they would be in 2015. I would also like for people to get tested and to know their status. Don't be afraid to go and get tested. I was one of those people who felt as if I didn't need to be educated about HIV because I wasn't living the quote-unquote lifestyle.
Right.
The myth was prostitution, drug usage, and I was in church. We both were.
You and your husband. And this man is sitting up in church every Sunday and then turning around lying to you in your face.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then saying, thank you, Jesus, amen.
And you have become an advocate, like we talked about, and really helping folks to gain awareness regarding HIV and AIDS. And you have clients that you work with, and you try to encourage them to disclose to someone, maybe if not their entire family, disclose to someone that you can trust so they can have that support.
Yes, if you tell one person, that's a multitude in the HIV community. That's a multitude. That's like telling 1,000 people. If you can trust one person and share that, then that takes that stress off of your shoulders, because now you don't have that secret from the world. Because one person, at least one person knows.
Yeah, and they can help you walk through that process.
Exactly, whether they understand what you're going through or not. It's just like losing a family member. We don't understand how you feel. You may not feel the same way I felt when I lost a family member, but you understand the process.
Right.
So now you have somebody to walk it out with.
Yeah. So 17 years being diagnosed. How has your life changed as a result of this diagnosis?
I'm more outspoken. I'm more in the public than I was, because I can easily be in the background and it's not a problem. Even in my singing, I prefer to sing background, but my pastor and other people are not having it.
So you have a beautiful singing voice, huh?
Well, I can hold a note.
You can hold a note, huh?
I can hold a note. I won't make you stick your fingers in your ear.
You talked about the fact that since being diagnosed, you have become more outspoken. Why is that?
Well, I use my story to help others. And it's not easy for me to do what I do, but by the grace of God, prayer, encouragement of others, I've been able to stand before strangers, complete strangers, and share my life with them. Some agree with what I say and some don't.
Yeah.
You can't make everybody happy.
That's true.
But even in the disagreement, if you just stop and think, this could be somebody that you know.
That's good.
Don't be angry because I tell my story the way I tell it. Pick the piece. It's just like the pastor getting up preaching a sermon. Get what's for you.
Yeah.
And work it.
In sharing your story, what are the key messages and key points that you want folks to take away from your story as you share it?
One of the things is bring it to your home. Don't just think about me and mine, because the virus is not prejudice. Just like it happened to me when I thought it wouldn't, it could also happen to you or yours. We have so many secrets in our community that yours could be one of the secrets, meaning that it could be a down low in your family. If you think you see what you see, pretty much you probably do see it.
Okay.
A lot of times we just ignore what we see. I was blinded.
Yeah.
I was actually blinded by religion.
You have to unpack that. For what do you mean?
Well, because of the fact that I was in church when it happened to me, in my mindset, I'm covered. I didn't have to worry about anything bad happening to me. I hid behind religion, not living the lifestyle that I thought people who were infected, even after the infection, I thought people were going to judge me, saying that I was this type person or that type person. So I was always in a hurry to say, well, this is what happened to me. I don't want you to think that I was out sleeping with 50 men at one time. That wasn't the case.
Yeah.
I was sleeping with my husband.
Are you angry with him today?
No.
Could you hold a conversation with him today?
Yes. I already have.
Okay.
I have, quite a few times. I've forgiven him. And in order for me to do what I'm doing today, I had to walk in forgiveness.
Yeah.
The first thing that my pastor, the first thing he started saying to me was, you know, you're going to have to forgive him.
You weren't trying to hear that at first, I'm
No.
sure.
No, I was not.
Pastor, too soon for that conversation.
I don't want you to forget, Bishop, I am the victim here. No.
I want you to minister to me, talking about him.
And he actually was ministering to me.
Yeah, yeah,
When he shared that with me, I didn't want to hear it,
yeah.
but I heard it. And because I heard it, I began to walk in it. I began to say it a long time before it manifested in my heart. And one day, it penetrated my heart. Don't know when. I just know if he walked in the door today, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. I sense that you would be. I can just tell from your demeanor.
Oh yeah, it took some time. It didn't happen overnight. It actually took some years.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my saying that I had forgiven him was the fact that I didn't have to see him. And whenever he would show up, I realized, okay, I'm not delivered in that area just yet. So I began to minister to myself. I remember being in Bible study one night, and he walked in. And when he walked in, I became so angry. And I told the resident pastor that I saw his mouth moving, but I didn't hear anything coming out of his mouth. So I knew then I needed to talk to Edith.
Yeah.
So I began to pray within myself, and I began to minister to myself. And it was like God turned the volume up on the pastor's voice, and I knew then I was getting deliverance.
Man.
So, and that's actually was the last time that I had to struggle with anger concerning him.
That's good. What is the one thing you would hope someone would take away from our discussion here today?
In entering a relationship, talk. Get to know that person. Get to know that person's family. Because a lot of times you'll learn a lot about the person by knowing the family. Don't be in such a hurry to get into things. Take your time. Don't be afraid to talk about things that people don't normally want to talk about, such as diseases. Have you ever had an STD? And start naming them. Syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV. Why don't we go get tested together? And because of the HIPAA law, I can't tell you what your spouse, what your friend's diagnosis is, but you can switch papers.
Right.
Why don't you do that?
Yeah. Don't just let them tell you verbally what the status is. Let me see it.
Let me see it in writing. It's not that I don't trust you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you regarding this topic. Email us at info@chrishowellonline.com.